Hi, my name's Mary, and I'm here with Kristen and Peggy, whom you'll see soon. We're setting up a lasagna garden bed, also known as sheet mulching, that will be ready to plant into in spring. So now we're in fall. We're creating this bed. It's going to be about 18 feet long, composted in place, and then at the end, a little compost pile. So here we've staged all of our materials, browns and greens, and you can hear more about composting because these are composting principles on our slideshow and our YouTube. This method is for no-till and building soil life.
Hi, I'm Kristen, and we're going to show you, if you're a little bit short on greens, you can get creative about how to find your greens. This is canary reed grass this was actually pulled out by the roots out of a pond. You can also harvest it by cutting, but you can see this is a green. Even though it's lightweight, it's dried kind of like hay, and it's still going to act as a green in your compost pile. So Mary has been chopping and harvesting some of this canary reed grass down on the edge of her pond, just simply with a knife, and she gets a nice armload of greens. And remember, we use our browns and greens by volume. So here we're going to be chopping down the old summer garden. And we're chopping it into smaller pieces, as you can see, so it will compost a little bit more quickly. Composting in place really brings your soil to life, and it really helps feed your plants. So we're not disturbing the soil. This is a no-till technique. So as you can see, they're just cutting it in place, and we're just going to let it fall, and we're going to build our lasagna bed right in place. And now Mary is pulling the irrigation lines out of the way because we want them on top of the bed that we build, on top of the lasagna. It'll be one of our top layers of the lasagna.
Cutting the browns up to smaller pieces serves both to help the structure of your compost pile as well as the activity in that pile. You'll cut up corn stalks, small sticks if you've got them, giant charred stems, and we lay them all on the ground. They don't really compress very much, so they leave space for the air to come into your compost pile and keep the compost going without becoming anaerobic. Secondly, the decomposers that are already in your soil, sitting there with their knives and forks at the ready, they will have more surface area to work on if you cut your browns into smaller pieces. And this means that they will be decomposing faster and you will get better results from your pile.
So we're aiming for damp like a wrung out sponge, and this may take more sprinkling than you think, because Kristen put her hand in there and it was pretty dry. So, does it need any more?
Look at that,
Dry. Okay, keep sprinkling then. So we'll do this for every layer. The next layer will be a green layer and we'll sprinkle. Then another 2 to 3 inches of browns. And we're just going to use up our material that we have and save the compost pile at the end for another day because it takes a lot more material than we estimated. Okay, so now Kristen is putting on the 2 to 3 inches of greens. Those are the dried grass from the pond. The oak leaves underneath are a really good brown because they have so much surface area and will decompose very quickly.
So the question just came up from our cameraman actually about what's the appropriate use of this? Would it be for a new garden that is just being started? Do you do it in an established garden? And the answer really is yes. You can do it anytime. It's a great way to start a new garden. It's a fantastic way to start a new garden. This garden it went through one season, so this is a great time to be adding, to be doing this lasagna garden, to be adding more life into this native soil.
We're adding manure now as the next layer on this lasagna sheet gardening bed. If you don't happen to have your very own wheelbarrow full of manure, you can talk to a neighbor or a friend who might have livestock that you can get manure from. You might also get greens from some of your neighbors. If they have yard clippings that they haven't used pesticides or herbicides on, you can get those and put them into your compost pile. You could also check for materials in addition to buying a bale of alfalfa hay to add. You can check if there are materials available by asking on trusted local sites, maybe like Nextdoor or Nevada County Backyard Gardeners or the Food Coalition or our very own Nevada County Resource Conservation District. They have a website which includes a manure exchange in which people who have manure that they are happy to get rid of list their telephone numbers. It's sort of like Match.com for horse poop.
Okay, here's the addendum. We didn't finish this part, and at the end where I have 2 walls, this will be a compost pile, which is just a large lasagna bed, just taller. So here I am 2 days later, and I'm still scooping and bringing in manure for this compost pile. And all the while I'm thinking, I don't need to spend all my energy piling this up. I could have made another lasagna bed this long in the same amount of effort. But I will be needing all this compost because I want to expand this garden bed into this yellow area that I have been solarizing all summer, but I still have Bermuda grass. So I will need to dig this out, and I have all winter to be digging this out, and then next spring I will have done compost and I will be able to expand the garden bed into this area. Okay, so I've had enough. I put a top layer of browns and now a impermeable horse raincoat that has seen better days, and I'm putting it away for the winter. I actually kind of use the straps to attach it, and I hope that the rainwater will then flow right off. It'll be ready in spring. This is the next day, and I dug up this small area. I dug up a bunch of Bermuda grass, amended with compost, and planted some cover crop seed that will overwinter and keep the soil covered. The hot pile here, on day 4, it peaked at 155 degrees, which is to be expected for a hot pile, and it's cruising along at 150. For a smaller pile that is composting in place, this lasagna bed, it actually peaked at 130 on the 3rd day and then declined quickly to 110. And that's to be expected for a smaller pile for composting in place. Then on the right, 6 days ago at the same time, we planted this bed in cover crop. And it is just now germinating, as you can see. And for information on all these 3 methods for building your soil, composting, lasagna bed gardening, and cover cropping, please go online to the Master Gardener website and look at our workshops on composting and soil building. We have videos, slideshows, a whole lot of downloadable resources. Okay, this is a chart we designed to be a resource for you to figure out when and how and which method to use for building your soil. It compares all three, and you can download this chart from the Master Gardener website. So hot composting, for example, is more work up front, less work later. You just let it sit for 6 months, and then all you have to do is move it to top dress your beds. The lasagna bed gardening is less material that you have to move, so it's less work up front, and it's absolutely no work later. You plant directly into it. The cover crop is great when you don't have any materials. You grow your own materials, and then you broadcast seed that you have to buy. It's very little work later on when you chop it down to let it compost in place. Then you can also combine. In this section, it shows how you can combine the methods. So please download the chart and all of our other resources by looking at the Master Gardener, Nevada County Master Gardener website, and have fun improving and building your beautiful living soil.